October 12, 1943. Cape Torokina, Bougainville. The jungle is still wet from the nightly downpour, and the air tastes like rust and rot, U.S. Marines from the 3rd Marine Division creep forward through the darkness, boots sinking in mud that clings like glue. You can hear it, the soft hiss of steam rising from the jungle floor, the distant thump of Japanese mortars adjusting their aim, and the controlled breathing of the Marines preparing for another assault at dawn. Private First Class Sam Delaney, his uniform soaked and his hands trembling from the chill, drags a long canvas bag through the underbrush. Inside is something he barely trusts, something the men have already started calling that damned pipe. The M1A1 bazooka. A few feet away, Corporal Ray Martinez crouches behind a fallen tree, wiping mud off his face with a sleeve that's hardly cleaner. He glances at Delaney. "Hope that toy works this time," Martinez mutters. Delaney forces a grin, but he remembers the last attempt, how the rocket fizzled, sputtered, and buried itself harmlessly in a mound of dirt 10 yards away. Word had spread fast. Some Marines joked that the bazooka was better for scaring rats than killing Japanese. But tonight feels different. Ahead of them, Japanese Special Naval Landing Forces (ASNLF) units wait inside a network of pillboxes and reinforced bunkers. Their officers have heard about America's rocket gun and laughed. A flimsy tube, a farmer's weapon. Hardly worth a second thought. But they haven't seen the new rounds yet. The M6A1 in improved rockets, deadlier, more stable, and packing enough punch to crack open a bunker like a tin can. A runner slides down the embankment beside the Marines, breathless. Orders from Captain Reeves. First light, we hit their forward bunker line. Heavy machine gun nest on the ridge is cutting up the left flank. Bazooka team pushes up and clears it. Martinez snorts. Bazooka team, that's us. Guess we're famous now. Delaney checks the weapon again. Palms tracing every seam of the steel tube, the trigger assembly, the batteries, the sight. Everything feels fragile, improvised, like the whole weapon might fall apart if he breathes wrong. He closes the breech and nods. Let's hope this one's the real deal. The first hint of sunrise bleeds through the palms. Orange, soft, deceptive. The Marines tighten their grips on rifles and BIRs. Ahead, the Japanese bunker blends perfectly with the earth. Dark, silent, patient. But in 20 minutes that silence will end, as Martinez shoulders the bazooka tube and Delaney loads the new M6A1 into place. Something shifts in the air. It's the feeling every Marine knows before a fight. The tightening in the gut, the pulse rising in the ears, the realization that once they step forward, there's no turning back. Artillery begins to fall, shaking the trees like a giant slamming its fist into the earth. "Move!" someone shouts. The assault begins. Delaney and Martinez sprint through the explosion-lit mist, staying low, weaving through shattered roots and smoking craters. Rounds snap past their ears, tiny, furious hornets. The Japanese bunker awakens. A burst of Type 96 light machine gun fire rips through the foliage, ripping branches clean off, showering the Marines in splinters. The forward squad hits the dirt, pinned. But Delaney and Martinez keep going, because if the bazooka fails again, the entire line could stall under Japanese fire. Martinez braces the tube against his shoulder. Delaney fumbles with the firing switch. "Come on, not this time, not this time." The rocket ignites with a sharp WMP, sending a blast of smoke behind them. The Marines freeze. The Japanese gunners pause. Even Delaney stops breathing. The rocket streaks forward, straight, fast, true. It slams into the bunker's firing slit. A heartbeat later, the front of the bunker erupts in a fireball that punches into the jungle like a furnace opening. The shockwave hits Delaney's chest like a sledgehammer. Dirt rains down, and for the first time, the Marines see something new. Fear, actual fear, among the Japanese defenders as the flames lick out of their supposedly indestructible fortification. Martinez exhales. Well, looks like the toy finally works. Behind them, a Marine shouts, "Load another!" Keep hitting them before they regroup. Delaney grabs the next rocket. The Bazooka has just entered the Pacific War for real. And the Japanese Marines, who once mocked it, are about to learn why the Americans invented it in the first place. The smoke from the first destroyed bunker drifts upward in thick, oily coils, hanging low beneath the canopy like a black veil. The shock of the explosion still vibrates through the ground as Delaney slams another M6A1 rocket into the launch tube. Martinez wipes grit from his eyes, already scanning for the next target. Second bunker, 30 yards left. A sergeant yells over the ringing in their ears. But they don't need the call out. They can see it themselves. The squat, earthen fortification dug into the slope, with logs and coral packed walls. A structure built to endure everything short of an earthquake. Until now. Machine gun fire spits from the slit, cutting jagged lines through the air. The rounds smack into tree trunks and kick up dirt near their boots. A Marine behind them screams as he's pulled into cover. Delaney feels the heat of the bazooka tube against his arm. Every instinct tells him to stay down. But there's no room for hesitation. Not when the entire left flank is stalled. "Ray, let's move!" They sprint uphill, weaving between shattered palms and smoking shell holes. The ground trembles from the American artillery still pouring into the deeper jungle. But the forward bunkers are untouched, too close to friendly lines. The Japanese defenders inside know this, and they're confident. After all, their bunkers have stood for months. They've survived naval bombardments, mortars, rifle, grenades, everything the Americans could throw. But they haven't faced the improved bazooka. Martinez plants himself behind a mound of volcanic rock, steadies the tube, and nods. Delaney drops beside him, breathing hard, hands shaking only slightly as he connects the wires and checks the battery. "Target locked," Martinez mutters. "Let's crack this one open too." Delaney flips the trigger switch. WWII. The second rocket streaks out, trailing a tail of smoke that curls through the trees like a white serpent. It hisses across the slope and slams directly into the bunker's log face. A flash, then a blast that shatters the log plating like kindling, blowing a volcanic burst of dirt and splinters backward into the firing pit. The concussion rattles helmets and sends birds exploding from the treetops. Marines cheer behind them, but the fight is far from over. Inside the smoldering bunker, a Japanese gunner stumbles out, uniform charred, face blackened. He collapses before reaching cover. Others inside scramble, shouting orders, pulling weapons. Delaney can hear their frantic voices, an entirely different tone now. Not confidence, not contempt, fear. Third bunker is waking up, a Marine lieutenant shouts. They're calling in knee mortars. A mortar round thunks into the earth just ahead of Martinez, exploding in a shower of mud and fragments that stings Delaney's cheek. The blast knocks them both backward, rolling down the slope until Delaney's back slams into a root. His ears ring, his vision wavers, but he sees the bazooka, still intact, lying a few feet away. Martinez crawls toward it, coughing. "This thing's gonna get us killed, Sam, or save everyone else." Delaney snaps back. Above them, more mortar rounds whistle through the canopy, striking the underbrush in vicious white flashes. Marines scatter, dodging shrapnel. Then they hear it, the sharp, angry chatter of a Type 92 heavy machine gun from the third bunker, spraying suppressing fire to lock the Marines in place. If that gun keeps firing, the left flank will be pinned indefinitely. Delaney grabs the bazooka. One more. Martinez's expression says he'd rather be anywhere else, but he shoulders the tube anyway. Loyalty outweighs fear. The third bunker looms above them, higher on the ridge, better fortified, with deep firing positions and interlocking fields of fire. Japanese SNLF Marines reinforce it constantly, darting between tree roots and trenches like shadows. Delaney loads the next rocket, Then, click, he freezes. Martinez glances back. What? What happened? The switch, it jammed. A mechanical failure. The exact nightmare the early bazooka models were infamous for. The exact reason the Japanese mocked the weapon as unreliable. But Delaney refuses to let the moment slip away. He adjusts the battery pack, taps the connection, breathes deep, and tries again. Click. Then the faint buzz of current. "Eats good," he shouts. Martinez doesn't wait. He fires. The rocket bursts from the tube, tearing through palm fronds, leaving a swirling wake of white smoke behind it. It flies higher, arcing slightly, and plunges straight into the machine gun aperture. The explosion is massive. The bunker doesn't just crack. It implodes, collapsing inward as fire belches from the rear exit like a jet engine. Shockwaves ripple down the ridge, and the Marines below feel heat wash over their faces. The Japanese Marines who once laughed at the toy rocket tube now scream orders of alarm, scrambling to abandon defensive positions that no longer seem impenetrable. Martinez exhales shakily. "Sam, I think we just changed the whole damn battle." Delaney shoulders another rocket. And we're not done, because on Bougainville, and soon across the entire Pacific, the bazooka is about to rewrite the rules of jungle warfare, one bunker at a time. The ridge is burning now. 3 bunkers cracked open like eggs, fire licking through their splintered logs while smoke pours upward in greasy columns. The jungle canopy above reflects the glow like a stormy sunset trapped beneath the leaves. But the Japanese aren't broken. Not yet. From deeper in the defensive line, officers scream orders. Runners dash across trenches. A pair of machine guns reposition on the far slope, muzzles glinting. And somewhere ahead, Delaney hears the unmistakable pop of knee mortars being reloaded. Movement on the right. A Marine shouts. Martinez and Delaney drop behind a fallen palm as a mortar shell whistles down, exploding so close it knocks loose a shower of coconuts that hammer the mud around them. Delaney spits dirt from his mouth. They're regrouping. And they're mad. Martinez mutters. Of course they are. Their bunkers, built with coral rock, heavy logs, and months of labor, were meant to be invincible. Before today, Marines had thrown everything at them: satchel charges, flamethrowers, grenades, point-blank rifle fire. Nothing made much of a dent, but the improved bazooka rockets were rewriting the rules, and Japanese commanders were realizing it with every new plume of smoke. A Marine lieutenant scrambles into their position, face streaked with mud, breathing hard. "Delaney! Martinez!" "You two are moving up. There's a command bunker ahead, reinforced as hell. We need it gone or the whole push stalls." Martinez's eyebrows rise. A command bunker. With this thing. The lieutenant taps the still, warm bazooka tube. "Son, whatever you two are doing, it's scaring the crap out of them. Keep doing it." He disappears into the foliage, leaving Delaney and Martinez staring at each other through drifting smoke. Delaney loads another M6A1 rocket. "Let's go." They advance up the ridge, flanked by riflemen who lay down covering fire. Every step is an exercise in survival. Ducking branches, diving behind rocks as stray rounds stitch the ground, bracing against mortar blasts that shake the earth. The command bunker comes into view, and it is monstrous. Built into a mound of soil and coral, shrouded in camouflage netting and bamboo, the structure sits like a buried beast in the hillside. Its firing slits glow faintly with the flash of rifles and a mounted heavy gun. Trenches snake outward like tentacles. A Japanese officer stands beside it, sword raised, shouting commands in clipped, furious bursts. Reinforcement squads pour into the earthworks, confident in their final stronghold. Martinez exhales. This one won't go down easy. Delaney crouches behind a tree trunk, inspecting the bunker through the smoke. His hands are steady now. No hesitation, no second guessing. The first 3 rockets had rewritten their confidence in the weapon. Now they trust the bazooka like a third member of the team. Why aim for the right support beam? Delaney says. Undercut the structure. Smart. Martinez shoulders the tube. Let's make it count. A burst of rifle fire tears leaves from the tree above them. Another Marine screams somewhere behind. Delaney waits, listening for the rhythm of the enemy's fire. He feels the moment open. He connects the wires. He flips the trigger switch. Fire! The rocket blasts out trailing smoke that drifts through the trees. It streaks toward the bunker's right side and slams beneath the log support. The explosion is thunderous. Flames erupt from the structure's belly, blasting outward like the breath of a furnace. The right side collapses inward, dragging the roof down in a cascade of earth and shattered timber. Japanese officers shout frantically. Some defenders stumble out dazed, burned, coughing smoke. Others retreat deeper into the remaining trenches as the bunker groans, creaks, and bursts apart in a second internal blast as stored ammunition ignites. The Marines roar in triumph, surging up the slope. Martinez lowers the empty launch tube, stunned. Sam, that bunker was supposed to be impossible to breach. Delaney wipes soot from his face. Not anymore. But even as victory sparks among the Americans, new shadows emerge deeper in the jungle. Japanese troops reinforcing the inner line, dragging machine guns, setting up new firing angles, bracing for a counterattack. The enemy isn't done, and neither are Delaney and Martinez. The bazooka team pushes forward, stepping into a battlefield that is shifting, evolving, and turning more violent with each breath. Because now the Japanese know what the weapon can do, and they'll stop at nothing to destroy the men carrying it. For a moment, the ridge is theirs. The command bunker lies in ruins, glowing like a collapsed blacksmith's forge. Smoke sweeps sideways in the humid wind, carrying the metallic tang of burned timber and scorched ammunition. Marines advance past Delaney and Martinez, rifles raised, boots splashing through muddy pools still trembling from the blast. But the jungle is never quiet for long. A sharp whistle slices through the trees. 1, 2, 3 notes. Delaney stiffens. Incoming. Mortar shells crash down around them in rapid succession. The explosions churn the hillside, ripping open roots and showering the Marines with debris. The Japanese weren't retreating. They were reorganizing, launching a counterattack with brutal precision. Martinez dives behind a stump as another round detonates nearby. Damn it! They're zeroing us! A Marine corporal shouts orders. Spread out! Don't bunch up! Watch the tree line. Figures appear through the drifting smoke. Japanese SNLF Marines advancing with bayonets fixed, moving in coordinated bursts, firing from the hip before sprinting to the next patch of cover. Their silhouettes flicker like ghosts between the trunks. Delaney slams a fresh rocket into the bazooka tube. His fingers are slick with sweat and grime, but he refuses to let them slip. Martinez steadies the tube on his shoulder. Targets. Front trench line, Delaney says. They're funneling troops through it. He tracks the movement, breathing in the thick air, waiting for the rocket to align with the narrow depression where Japanese forces surge forward. Fire! The rocket screams out, its smoke trail curling through the trees. It hits the trench line dead center, erupting in a column of flame that rolls back like a wave. Screams echo. Earth collapses inward. The advance momentarily halts, but only momentarily. The Japanese shift tactics instantly. Instead of massing, they scatter, small fire teams breaking off, flanking through the underbrush with uncanny speed. A Marine beside Delaney fires his M1 Garand until the rifle clicks empty, then fumbles for a clip. They're coming around the left. A burst of Type 99 rifle fire rips a Marine off his feet. Delaney's heart pounds. He grabs another rocket, his last one in the bag. Only one left! Make it count! Martinez calls back. But there's a new problem. A pair of Japanese soldiers moving low and fast set up a Type 147 mm anti-tank gun deeper in the shadows. Its barrel angles toward the Marines' position. Delaney's breath catches. Anti-tank gun. Martinez doesn't hesitate. He swings the bazooka around, bracing the tube awkwardly against a tree. "They'll fire before we do," a Marine warns. The Japanese crew works with terrifying efficiency. Load, aim, fire. Delaney watches the process unfold in seconds that feel like minutes. The ground bucks violently as the 47 numbered shell slams into a palm trunk behind them, splitting it in half like a matchstick. Splinters whip through the air.
"Ray, no, no."
Martinez fires. The rocket launches, slicing low across the jungle floor. It screams toward the anti-tank crew, but just as it reaches them, one soldier dives aside. The rocket slams into the gun shield. The explosion tears the weapon apart, sending metal fragments spinning like shrapnel. The blast flings one soldier backward and knocks the other flat, dazed and bleeding. Delaney grabs Martinez's shoulder, breathing hard. "That was too damn close." "We're alive." Martinez forces a grin. "That counts." But their victory lasts only seconds. A shout erupts from the right flank. More Japanese troops surge through a narrow ravine, using the smoke as cover. Marines scramble to meet them, rifles cracking, grenades flying. The hillside becomes a chaotic roar of gunfire, screams, and the thunder of mortars. Delaney checks the rocket bag. Empty. Martinez looks at him. "We're out." Completely. For the first time all day, the Bazooka team feels exposed. Just two Marines with an empty tube in a battlefield that suddenly feels very, very large. Delaney grips the weapon anyway. Even unloaded, it feels like a lifeline. But the Japanese have seen the destruction it caused. They've felt its fire. They know exactly who crippled their bunkers and shattered their front line. And now, they're hunting the Bazooka team. Shadows move in the foliage, creeping closer. Rifle barrels glint. A Japanese officer points toward them, shouting commands. Martinez shoulders his rifle. "Sam, they're coming straight for us." Delaney tightens his grip on the empty tube. "Then we hold until reinforcements catch up." The pair brace themselves as the jungle trembles with approaching footsteps. The first shots crack toward them. The Japanese counterattack has arrived, and Delaney and Martinez are at the center of the storm. The first wave comes fast. Shadows break free from the tree line, lean shapes in dark green uniforms, helmets wrapped in cloth. Rifles raised as they sprint uphill with terrifying resolve. Their war cries slice through the smoke and chaos, rising above the crackle of gunfire. Delaney ducks behind a stump as bullets snap past his ears. Martinez fires his M1, each shot echoing like a hammer strike. 2 down. 3 moving right? Delaney lifts the empty bazooka tube like a club, swinging it toward the advancing shapes. The weapon feels wrong without the weight of a loaded rocket, like a sword without a blade. But he has no choice. A Japanese trooper charges through the foliage, bayonet thrust forward. Delaney blocks the strike with the bazooka tube, the metal ringing from the impact. The force nearly knocks him off balance. The soldier snarls and lunges again. Delaney steps in, grips the tube tight, and cracks it across the attacker's jaw. The Marine beside him yells, "Reload that thing." Delaney shouts back, "I can't. It's EMPTY." There's no time to explain. Another attacker emerges, sliding into the low brush, rifle leveled. Martinez spots him and fires. The shot hits center mass, dropping the soldier instantly. But more voices rise from the ravine. More boots pound the earth. More shadows converge. The Japanese are no longer attacking in scattered squads. This is coordinated, deliberate, focused. They're targeting the bazooka team. Delaney sees an officer pointing directly at them, shouting orders while waving his sword. A squad of SNLF Marines breaks off and moves like a blade through the underbrush straight toward Delaney and Martinez.
"Ray!"
"They want us specifically," Delaney says. Martinez reloads. Good, saves us time finding them. But bravado won't hold the line forever. Their ammo is limited, their cover is thin, and the bazooka, the miracle weapon that cracked open bunkers hours earlier, is now nothing more than a hollow steel tube. A mortar shell crashes into the ridge, shaking them off their feet. Dirt rains down, mixing with falling palm fronds and ash. A Marine screams somewhere behind them. Delaney wipes blood from his brow and peers over the stump. Through the blur of smoke, he sees reinforcements arriving, but they're too far back, pinned by crossfire. Marines try to push up the slope, but the Japanese machine gun on the left flank has found its rhythm again, drowning the ridge in fire. They are alone. "Sam!" Martinez shouts, pointing uphill. Another group of Japanese soldiers rushes their position. 7, maybe 8 men, moving low and fast, flanking from the right. Martinez fires until his rifle clicks empty. "I'm out." Delaney throws down the empty bazooka tube and grabs a fallen Marine's Thompson. He raises it just as the attackers break into the clearing. The ridge erupts in violent close-quarters chaos. Delaney fires in short bursts, cutting down 2 soldiers. Martinez tackles another, the pair rolling through the mud as the Marine fights for control of a dagger. A bayonet thrusts past Delaney's shoulder, nicking skin. He spins and fires point blank. The air smells of burned powder and raw earth. Every breath tastes like smoke. Martinez finally wrests the dagger away and drives the butt of his rifle into the attacker's skull. He staggers back, panting, face streaked with mud. Still alive? Delaney asks. Barely. Martinez spits blood. Where the hell is everyone? A Marine corporal crawls over, clutching his shoulder. Whole lines trying to push up, but that machine gun has us pinned. If someone doesn't kill it, this flank collapses. Delaney doesn't hesitate. Where's its position? The corporal nods toward a thicket halfway up the ridge, behind that log barricade. Martinez swears under his breath. That's fortified. We'll never get close with rifles. Delaney's gaze shifts to the empty bazooka tube lying in the mud. There's no rocket, no ammo, no chance for an explosive kill. But maybe, just maybe, there's another way. Martinez sees the idea forming in Delaney's eyes and shakes his head. Sam, don't even think about it. Delaney picks up the tube. He wipes off the blood and mud, gripping it like a spear. If we can't shoot it, he says quietly, we use it to close the distance. Martinez stares at him for several long seconds. Then he loads his last clip into the M1. Fine, but I'm going with you. The 2 Marines rise from cover. The jungle roars with gunfire as they sprint toward the machine gun nest. The bazooka team charging with nothing but courage, desperation, and an empty steel tube that has already changed the course of the battle. The ridge feels twice as steep now. Delaney and Martinez sprint uphill through smoke so thick it clings to their skin, every breath like inhaling ash. The machine gun's metallic hammering dominates everything. The rhythm of war itself, its tracers slicing through the jungle in deadly red lines. Delaney grips the empty bazooka like a staff, the metal slick with sweat. The jungle blurs around him, broken palms, smoking shell holes, fallen Marines, and the flicker of muzzle flashes ahead. Martinez fires controlled shots as he runs. Cover left. They're shifting fire! A burst of rounds tears through the brush beside them, shredding ferns and peppering a tree trunk with splinters. Delaney ducks low and keeps moving. The machine gun nest is close now. He can hear the shouted commands in Japanese. The clatter of ammo belts feeding into the gun, the frantic effort to hold the collapsing flank. A Marine squad on the lower slope tries to push forward, but the gun rips into them, forcing them back into cover. They spot Delaney and Martinez charging alone. Bazooka team, fall back. A sergeant shouts, "You're going to get cut down." Delaney doesn't answer. He can't. The moment he hesitates, they lose the advantage. Martinez reloads mid-run, slamming the clip home with a metallic ping. "Sam, 10 yards!" Delaney drops behind a fallen log as a new burst erupts from the nest, chewing through the trunk and showering him with bark. He peeks over the log. There it is. The machine gun nest has been dug deep into a natural depression, shaded by a heavy log roof reinforced with clay and coral rock. 2 gunners operate the weapon, while another pair guards the flank with rifles. A 5th man feeds ammunition, shouting to drown out the roar of the gun. The structure is nearly impregnable, unless someone gets close. Martinez slides beside him, reloading again. "Sam, once we move, they'll see us clear." Delaney nods. That's the point. He tightens his grip on the empty tube. Martinez checks his rifle, jaw clenched. "All right, let's finish what we started." They move. The gunners spot them instantly. 2 Marines breaking from cover, one with a rifle, the other charging with a weapon they think is loaded. The machine gun swings toward them. Tracers zip past, slicing leaves and digging craters into the mud. Delaney can feel the heat of passing rounds brushing his sleeves. Martinez fires back, forcing the flank guards to duck. Delaney runs faster. A rifleman rises to block him, bayonet flashing. Delaney pivots and swings the bazooka tube, smashing it across the man's ribs with a crack. The soldier collapses, gasping. Martinez fires a shot that drops another guard trying to flank. The machine gun roars again, and Martinez is forced into cover.
Sam, go, go.
Delaney doesn't hesitate. He sprints the final 15 feet alone, zigzagging, each step hammering through mud and debris. The gunner swivels the weapon toward him. The muzzle flash blooms, and Delaney dives forward, sliding through the dirt as a burst passes inches above his back. He crashes into the nest. The gunners shout in shock, scrambling to pull sidearms, but Delaney is already swinging. The bazooka tube slams into the first gunner's helmet, knocking him sideways. The second tries to draw a pistol, but Delaney drives the tube into his throat, dropping him. The ammo assistant lunges with a knife. Delaney blocks the strike with the tube, knocks the blade away, then tackles the man into the wall of the bunker. They tumble over the ammo crates. Delaney grabs the soldier's own rifle and butt strokes him into unconsciousness. Above, Martinez appears, vaulting into the nest. He fires a quick burst into the final guard who tries to retreat into the trench. Silence falls. Then, Martinez exhales, lowering his smoking rifle. "Sam, you actually did it." Delaney looks at the battered tube in his hands, dented, cracked, smeared with mud, and laughs breathlessly. Guess the toy still works. Martinez claps his shoulder. "You're insane. But I'm glad you're my kind of insane." Below them, the Marines see the nest fall silent. A cheer erupts along the ridge as squads surge forward, finally free of the gun's murderous fire. The counterattack begins to falter. Japanese troops waver, looking at the destroyed bunkers, the wrecked trenches, the scattered bodies near the machine gun nest. And they see, clearly, what caused it. The bazooka team. Delaney leans against the log wall, catching his breath. "We need rockets. Once they regroup, they'll fortify again." Martinez nods. "Then, let's get resupplied before round 2. But before they can move, a distant rumble rises from the deeper jungle. Not mortars, not rifles. Something heavier. Something coming their way. Martinez's expression hardens. "Sam, I think they're bringing up armor." Delaney grips the empty bazooka tube. The battle isn't over. Not even close. June 21st, 1944. The northern ridge of Saipan burned under a sky stained orange with rising smoke. The heat radiating from shattered fuel drums shimmered across the rocks as U.S. Marines of the 1st Battalion, 25th Marines, crawled forward, inch by inch, toward a Japanese defensive line that refused to die. Sergeant Paul Delaney, sweat stinging his eyes, eased up behind a jagged coral slab. Beside him, Private First Class Eddie Rusk lowered the empty M1A1 tube, its metal still warm from the last shot. Ahead of them, The Japanese Type 96 heavy machine gun raked the Marine advance again, its white muzzle flash flickering from a cave mouth fortified with sandbags, timber, and volcanic stone. Every burst kicked up fountains of dirt inches from their boots. Pressure. Heat. The smell of cordite. The buzzing of flies drifting around the dead. This was the rhythm of the Pacific. Delaney wiped his face, then tapped Rusk's shoulder. Reload. New bunker. Same trick. Rusk pulled an M6A1 rocket from its fiber container, its olive-drab fins catching the light. This was no longer the underpowered M6, the type the Army had cursed in Tunisia. This was the improved warhead, hotter, faster, capable of doing something that a year earlier many Marines would have sworn was impossible. It could crack a Japanese bunker wide open. Rusk slotted the rocket into the tube. There was a soft metallic click as it locked into place. Delaney peered toward the cave line. Covering fire on my mark. To their left, a fire team braced behind the ruined stump of a banyan tree. They raised their Garans and BRs. Delaney exhaled. Mark. A roar of Marine rifle fire erupted, slamming into the cave mouth. Dust and rock fragments rained down. The Type 96 fell silent for a heartbeat. Just long enough. "Send it," Delaney barked. Rusk braced the tube on his shoulder, checked the line of fire, and squeezed the trigger. The rocket streaked forward, its tail a blur of sparks and white smoke. The M6A1 struck the timber reinforcement dead center. For a split second, nothing moved. Then the bunker erupted. The blast punched outward, belching black smoke and fire. Sandbags burst apart. Splintered wood shot into the air like shrapnel. A deep, concussive shockwave rolled over the Marines, carrying with it the faint sound of human screams swallowed by the explosion. Rusk lowered the tube. Jesus, that did it. Delaney didn't reply. He was already watching the smoke, waiting for movement, any movement, from the bunker. There was none. "Up," he shouted. The squad surged forward, boots pounding across the broken surface. They reached the crater's edge, weapons trained into the collapsed position. Inside, the Japanese defenders, once confident behind meters of stone and timber, lay scattered among the debris, victims of a weapon they had once dismissed as a crude American toy. The ridge, silent for the first time in hours, echoed with the low rumble of distant artillery. A warm wind blew across the blasted coral, carrying the acrid smell of burning fuel. Rusk rested the empty bazooka tube against his leg. "Hey, Sarja, remember when Intel said they'd laugh at this thing?" Delaney snorted. "Let 'em laugh. We ain't the ones in the bunkers." He slapped Rusk on the arm. "Reload. We're not done." Because ahead, beyond the smoke, the Marines could already see it, another Japanese pillbox, half hidden, half buried, and very much alive. A machine, gun trace stitched across the ridge, searching for new targets. Delaney pointed toward it with his chin. "That's your next one. Let's keep making believers out of 'em." Rusk hefted another rocket, the distinctive weight now familiar and strangely comforting. The men crouched low again, moving with the practiced rhythm of Marines who had learned through fire what their weapon could truly do. The Japanese defenders, those who had mocked American firepower only months earlier, now dove for cover the moment a bazooka team took position. They'd learned the hard way that once the M6 rockets started flying, no amount of steel, timber, or ancient volcanic stone could guarantee their survival, and on Saipan's burning ridge, that fear was about to spread even further. June 21, 1944. The smoke rising from the shattered bunker drifted inland, curling through the jagged rocks like a warning signal. Far ahead, hidden among the collapsed terraces of Saipan's northern ridge, Japanese infantry of the 136th Infantry Regiment watched the flames with widening eyes. They had heard rumors, whispers carried from other islands, about a new American weapon that could melt steel shutters and cave in concrete embrasures. But on Saipan, they had dismissed it as exaggeration. "A simple American tube," a weapon of desperation, not dominance. Yet now, staring at the remains of a bunker that had held since dawn, the Japanese soldiers felt something they had not felt often in this war: uncertainty. Inside a shadowed trench, Sergeant Tanaka Hizao gripped his rifle tighter. His position overlooked the next approach route, exactly the path the Americans were now moving toward. He'd already lost 2 machine gun teams. Their pride, their doctrine, their belief in the invulnerability of their island defenses, shaken by a single blast. Tanaka spoke quietly to his men. "Stay low. Watch for the tube. When you see the smoke trail, shout. The Americans will aim for the shutters." But even as he said it, the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The bazooka's arrival had transformed their once sturdy fortifications into death traps. Ever a bunker became a coffin waiting to be sealed. Down below, the Marines pressed forward. Delaney led the team along the ridge's curve, moving beneath the cover of thick smoke. Rusk carried the tube at the ready, cradling the M6 rocket in his other hand like a fragile but deadly treasure. The ground crackled beneath them. Burned casings, shattered coral, and the debris of destroyed positions. Behind them, other Marine squads advanced carefully, clearing the last pockets of resistance. As they reached the next rise, the Japanese defenders opened fire again. Automatic rifle bursts ricocheted off coral. A knee mortar thumped, and the shell exploded nearby, showering the Marines with fragments of stone. Rusk ducked behind a boulder, gripping the bazooka to his chest. Delaney crouched beside him. "They're scared. They're firing like mad. They know what we're carrying." A Marine gunner returned fire, sending a line of tracers up the ridge. The Japanese riflemen scattered deeper into their trenches. Rusk readied the M6 rocket. "Sarge, I've got a visual on their next bunker. 2 shutters, right side, halfway up." Delaney peered out, timing the bursts of enemy fire. "Distance, about 70 yards, plenty close." Delaney nodded. "All right, set up behind that ridge lip. I'll mark with smoke." He pulled a green smoke grenade, yanked the pin, and hurled it forward. The grenade clattered against a rock and burst, sending a thick plume that obscured their movement. Rusk moved fast. He set the tube on a natural shelf of coral rock, aimed through the drifting haze, and steadied his breathing.
"Ready," he called. Delaney shouted behind him, "Fire!"
Rusk squeezed the trigger. The rocket streaked from the tube, its trail slicing through the smoke. Japanese soldiers shouted in their trench,
"Rocketto! Rocketto! Down!"
"Take cover." But there was no time. The M6 struck the bunker mouth with a thunderous crack, blowing the shutters inward. Flames poured from the opening, followed by a second blast as stored ammunition ignited. The bunker seemed to inhale for a second, then exhaled a plume of fire, smoke, and debris. A wave of heat washed over the Marines even from a distance. Tanaka, watching from the side trench, froze. The invincible defensive line, built into the island's bones, was burning apart piece by piece. His men looked at him for orders. "Sergeant, what do we do?" Tanaka swallowed hard. The enemy had found the weakness, the one weapon that turned bunkers, once symbols of Japanese strength, into death chambers. "We fall back," Tanaka whispered, "to the next ridge." But even then, he knew it wouldn't matter. The Americans would bring their bazookas, and the Firestorms would follow. Below. Rusk reloaded. Delaney clapped him on the back.
"A nice shot again, they're breaking."
"Keep pushing." The Marines surged forward, seizing the ridge as Japanese soldiers retreated through the smoke. The tide was turning one bunker at a time. June 21, 1944. The northern ridge of Saipan trembled beneath the steady rhythm of explosions. Each detonation rolled across the battlefield like a crashing wave, echoing off the ravines and coral terraces. The Japanese defensive line, once engineered to bleed an invading force dry, was collapsing bunker by bunker. shattered under the relentless advance of U.S. Marines armed with their now feared weapon. Sergeant Delaney led his squad along a trail carved by shrapnel and fire. The air shimmered with heat, thick with the metallic taste of gunpowder and volcanic dust. Behind him, Rusk carried the bazooka as if it were part of his own body. Steady grip, calm gaze, moving with the confidence of a man who knew he held the key to survival. "Eyes up," Delaney muttered. "Next bunker's tucked into that outcrop ahead. Count on overlapping fields of fire. Watch the left trench." The Marines fanned out, boots sinking into ash, soft ground. A bar gunner knelt, leveling his weapon toward the ridge line. A pair of riflemen moved to flank. Rusk positioned himself behind a chunk of shattered concrete, setting the bazooka on his shoulder. Then the next ambush came. A hidden Japanese Type 92 heavy machine gun opened fire, its slow, thumping cadence unmistakable. Tracer rounds lashed across the ridge, forcing the Marines to drop behind whatever cover they could find. Chips of coral flew like snowflakes, stinging exposed skin. Rusk ducked his head.
"That thing's chewing the whole ridge!"
Delaney crawled to him. "We can't move up with that thing firing. We need it gone. Now, on it," Rusk said, pulling another M6 rocket from its tube. The Japanese machine gun swept the ridge again, the crew operating with ruthless precision. Inside the position, the gunners worked in a tight rhythm: feed belt, clamp barrel, fire, completely unaware that the weapon they feared most had already taken aim. Rusk steadied the tube. "Sarge, I've got a shot." Delaney squinted through the smoke. "Clear back blast!" The Marines shifted, flattening themselves against the rock. The ridge hummed with tension, every man holding his breath. Rusk exhaled slowly, crosshairs steady. He fired. The rocket blasted forward, trailing a blinding white streak. It arced slightly from the ridge's decline, then smashed straight into the firing slit of the Japanese position. The explosion was violent. The machine gun instantly fell silent. Fire burst through the embrasure like the breath of a furnace. Timber supports cracked. Stones tumbled down in a cascade. A final internal detonation, likely ammunition cooking off, sent a spray of sparks into the air. The Marines didn't cheer. They didn't need to. They simply rose and moved forward, quiet, efficient, unstoppable. Up the slope, Sergeant Tanaka heard the blast and felt his stomach twist. Another position gone. Another team wiped out before they could even regroup. He had served in Shanghai. In Manchuria, he had fought the Chinese, the Soviets, and resisted American landings in the Aleutians. But nothing had taken apart fortified positions like this. He turned to the few remaining soldiers crouched in the narrow trench. "They are targeting every strong point. Their rockets burn through the shutters. They will take the ridge by nightfall." Private Morita swallowed. "Sergeant, what if we counterattack?" "With what?" Tanaka whispered. He gestured to their tiny stockpile, a handful of grenades, 2 jammed rifles, and a single knee mortar with 3 rounds. Their empire had promised them glory. But what stood before them now were Americans, armed with a weapon that made glory irrelevant. "We'll fall back to the command post. We warned Major Watanabe," Tanaka said, "and pray to the ancestors that the line behind us holds." But even as he spoke, he could hear the distant shouts of Marines advancing, calling out targets for the bazooka teams. The Americans were coming, and the weapon the Japanese once mocked now drove terror into their bones. Down below, Delaney signaled his squad forward.
"Pick it up, Marines!"
"We're pushing to the top before they regroup." Rusk jogged beside him, wiping soot from his face. "How many more bunkers, you think?" Delaney glanced up the ridge, smoke rising from multiple impact points, the sky glowing with fire. "Enough to keep us busy," he said. "But that's why we brought the damn tube." They advanced toward the final rise, where the last major bunker complex waited. deep, reinforced, and dug straight into the mountain itself. The Marines tightened their grips. The Japanese defenders' last stronghold was ahead, and the bazooka was far from finished. June 21, 1944. The sun hung low over Saipan, a molten disk bleeding light across the northern ridge. Smoke twisted skyward in thick, black coils from shattered bunkers, turning the jungle canopy into a surreal battlefield painting. The echoes of artillery, gunfire, and explosions created a deafening symphony, shaking the coral terraces under the Marines' boots. Sergeant Delaney peered at the last fortified complex ahead. It was massive, a sprawling network of interlocked pillboxes, trenches, and reinforced concrete caves that had repelled every assault so far. Japanese flags fluttered faintly from its peaks, a desperate signal of defiance. Delaney turned to Rusk, his eyes narrowed. That's it. One last push. Once this falls, the ridge, and probably the island, opens up for us. Rusk lifted the M1A1, cradling an M6A1 rocket in his hands. You ready? Delaney nodded. A's ready as I'll ever be. The squad fanned out behind the ridge line, moving low and fast. Every Marine knew the stakes. Every Japanese gunner knew the threat. Fear had already spread like wildfire among the defenders. The toy, bazooka, was no longer mocked. It was now the bane of their fortified positions. Delaney threw a quick glance at the bunker complex. The first pillbox lay at a shallow angle, its twin firing slits glinting in the fading sun. Behind it, deeper bunkers formed a maze of defensive positions. Japanese soldiers peeked through narrow openings, firing sporadically but with increasing caution. Here we go, Delaney whispered, gripping Rusk's shoulder. Covering fire on my mark. A burst of bar fire and rifle shots erupted from the squad below, pinning the gunners in the nearest pillbox. Rusk slid into position behind a jagged rock. Target locked. Delaney threw a green smoke grenade to mark the target. It erupted, sending a thick veil between the Americans and the defenders. Fire! Delaney shouted. The M6A1 rocket screamed from the tube, leaving a silver streak against the smoke-laden sky. It struck the reinforced logs, covering the pillbox with pinpoint accuracy. Bam! The explosion sent timber, coral, and earth flying. Flames erupted from the embrasure. Inside, the Japanese gunners scrambled in panic. Delaney and Rusk didn't hesitate. They advanced, sprinting from cover to cover, rifle fire clearing the flanks. The bunker erupted a second time as stored ammunition inside detonated. The ridge shook from the concussive force. One by one, other pillboxes along the ridge fell. Every explosion sent shockwaves that rattled nearby trees and scorched the air with heat. Marines surged forward, spurred on by the devastation wrought by the bazooka. Sergeant Tanaka Hizo watched from a nearby trench, disbelief etched across his face. The last line of defense, the final complex that he and his men had fortified for months, was disintegrating before a handful of Americans wielding what they had once called a toy. His men were panicking. Small groups were retreating toward secondary positions. Coordination collapsed. The psychological blow of seeing bunkers explode one after another was as lethal as the rocket's concussive power. They are everywhere, Tanaka whispered. And they have that weapon, that Firestorm maker. The M6 rockets had transformed the Pacific battlefield, where traditional artillery could take hours or days. To reduce a bunker, the bazooka crews were now capable of instant annihilation. Japanese defensive doctrine crumbled in real time. Delaney and Rusk moved to the center of the ridge. Smoke, fire, and dust enveloped the scene. Their squad cleared the debris of the final pillbox, dragging bodies out of the way and checking for survivors. The Americans were exhausted, covered in mud, sweat, and soot, but victorious. Rusk looked down at the empty bazooka tube, now dented and blackened. I can't believe this thing worked, every single time. Delaney smiled grimly, wiping soot from his brow. They'll never laugh at it again. The ridge was silent, save for the distant groans of injured defenders and the hiss of dying flames. The line of Japanese bunkers that had once been the heart of their northern defense lay in ruins. The toy, Bazooka, had turned the tide on this front. It was no longer a weak, unreliable weapon. It was a bunker breaker, a fear-inducer, a symbol of American ingenuity and determination. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the battlefield in crimson light, Delaney surveyed the ridge. He knew this was more than a victory. It was a turning point. Across the Pacific, Japanese defenders would come to fear the bazooka, once mocked and dismissed. Now a weapon capable of turning fortified dreams into blazing ruins in the span of a few terrifying seconds. The Marines had learned it. The Japanese had learned it. And the war in the islands would never be the same.